Let's talk the club. One more thing, like, subscribe, and share. Come on, let's talk the club. Woo!
Hey, good evening, everybody. Let me make sure I put, there we go. Good evening, everybody. It is June 24th, 2025, and I'm so delighted that you all have decided to spend this time with me. It is another Tuesday. It's Cutler here on the Let's Talk to Cutler Virtual Book Club YouTube channel and this platform. And I'm delighted that you all are here to spend this time with me. Come on into the chat room and say hello to everybody. It's Happy June, happy birthday month to me. And happy birthday to my middle brother, actually. And I'm just so glad that you all have spent this time with me. So let me say thank you for whatever space you've allowed me to come into. Let me just say thank you so much for that. We're going to have an interesting conversation. I believe it's going to be an interesting conversation this evening. So if you're wondering, what is this platform about? What is this guy up here for? What is he talking about? Just in case you don't know, this platform is about inspiration. It's about motivation. It's about making sure that we challenge ourselves to show up the best version of ourselves, even in the worst possible situation. So it's about showing up your best self, even in the worst of situations. It's about challenging us. It is about making sure that we are inspired. It's about making sure that we are motivated, all of that kind of stuff. And I like to think that I've gotten a little older, so I have a little more wisdom. So I'm just going to try to share. I hope so, you all. I hope that I've gotten a little older, yes, but I hope I've gotten a little more wisdom that I can share with you all. I'm so thankful to have a village who cares and a village who supports and a village who encourages me. And I hope you all have the same as well. Thank you for being a part of my village. And again, I just want to invite people who are stopping by for the first time. If you haven't done so, do me a favor. Y'all, please do a favor. Go ahead and subscribe. And once after you subscribe, click on the notification bell, because it lets you know whenever I've gone live and whenever I have uploaded new content. I don't know where your notification bell is on your particular device. I don't know if it's up there, down there, over there, or over there, wherever it is. Just click on it so that you know when I'm here, whenever I've gone live and uploaded new content and the like. Again, let me see if I can shout out the LTTs. Not again, because I haven't done it yet. Color, don't get ahead of yourself. Let me see if I can go ahead and shout out the LTTC VIP. So the Let's Talk to Cutler, very important people. Now, of course, in my mind, everybody is important, but I just need to, in the spirit of fun and in the spirit of bantering, just to shout out those people, the first three people that I see on my end who have come into the chat room. And on my end, y'all don't get upset with me, but on my end, the first three people that I saw are Annie Cutler, Kimberly Montoya, and Marissa. So Annie Cutler says to everybody, let's ride. Let's go ahead and ride this train on through for these 1,800 seconds. Kimberly says, hi, y'all. And Marissa says the same thing, says a hi to everybody. So again, tell people, come on and let's talk to Cutler, you all, because what I want to chit chat about this evening is things that you should like about yourself. Now, you all know I am not a proponent. Let me just be very, very clear. I'm not a proponent of beating yourself up, tearing yourself down, sabotaging your dreams and hopes and ambitions. That is not me. That is not me. You all know, particularly those of you who have been following me, been with me for a while, you know that I tend to say, you have to learn how to encourage yourself. You have to learn how to motivate yourself. You have to learn how to set your dreams and aspirations high among the stars, so that when you reach for them, you're reaching high. All of those sorts of things. But by the same token, we always talk about us. We talk about the need to improve ourselves. We talk about this need to move onward and upward toward this place that is called better, making sure that we don't settle for status quo. It is important in your life that you don't settle for status quo. You don't say, oh, this is as good as it's going to get, and I'm not going to aspire for anything greater. No. We don't ever want anybody to do that. And we are on our way to this space that's called better. And again, I often say better happens not just 5 weeks from now, 5 months from now, 5 years from now, but better happens whenever you say in your heart and you believe in your mind that this is not the end all be all. This is not as good as it gets. There's always something beyond where I am. There's always something beyond where I am. I heard a very powerful message this past Sunday, and a core part of the message was, I see something else. And what that said to me was to learn to see not only where you are, but see beyond where you are. And even the goals that you've set, learn to see beyond those goals that you set. Learn to know that there's something way far beyond what you could ever think or imagine. So then this is about saying, I really am on my way. I do see better in my view. I see better in my heart and in my mind and in my soul. But how do we see better? Many times we see better in terms of opportunities. There's a better job. There's a better house. There's a better car. There's a better this, a better vacation, a better that, a better bank account. So we see better so many times from that perspective. But have we ever stopped and stood back and stepped back and said, what does a better me look like? Now that's food for thought. What does a better me look like? And if you all want to, Kimberly, thank you so much. And if you all really want to be engaged, she just wished me birthday blessings, happy birthday and birthday blessings again. Thank you so much. But if you want to be a better you, and your question is, how can I be a better me? What does a better me look like? Because somebody just put that in the comments. What does a better me look like? And I'll pop it up on the screen just so when people stop by and they catch the replay, that they can see that that's a part of what we were talking about. But what does a better me look like? A better me, it means that I have to realize that in the totality of who I am, in all that I am, in my full person and personage, I have to realize that if I'm going to improve, there are some things about me that are not optimal right now. There are some things about me that are not necessarily ideal right now. So then, thank you, Marissa. What does a better me look like? So I just want to put that, show that on the screen. That's what we're going to chat about. What does a better me look like? So then, if I'm going to be better, if I'm going to improve, if I'm not going to be the same person next year, what does that look like? It means I must do an introspective inventory and come to the conclusion that there are some things about me that I don't necessarily like. And I'm not talking about your physicality and your physical makeup and all of that, because sometimes people would do a number on us. You know, you're too tall, you're too thin, you're too dark, you're too short, you're too this, you're too that. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about us doing and introspective, looking at me only and nobody else, and nobody else is looking at me and I'm not looking at anybody else, but it's me looking at me to see what are some things, what are some character flaws, what are some things about me that I can stand to improve. So that's why I come across this notion, I come to this notion that there are some things that you should not necessarily like about yourself. You're probably wondering, Cutler, what in the world are those things, man? What are you talking about when you say that there are some things that? Thank you, Andy Cutler. There are some things. So again, what does the better me look like? What are some things, Cutler? If you're talking about improving me, and what does a better me look like? In order for me to see a better me, I have to see areas of improvement. I have to see the areas that where there is some deficits, some things that can be improved. And so let me talk about it, because it's common to have some things that it's okay. And it is really common and okay for us to have some things about ourselves that we just don't like. And I want to walk through some of those, because and this is not for anybody else to do an inventory of you. And so make sure, if people start trying to do inventory of you, you say, no, this is about you doing an inventory of you, me doing an inventory of me. And so what I really want to do is just walk through some of these things that we shouldn't necessarily like about ourselves. I mean, one of the things that we traits that we can sometimes have is this habit of comparing ourselves to each other. You shouldn't like that about yourself. This whole notion, if you're constantly in the habit of comparing yourself to other people, you shouldn't do that. You just should not. Because what happens is you start feeling inadequate and you start feeling envious when you look at other people's successes, or you start looking at their qualities and their characteristics. You should not like comparing yourself to others. Because the more you compare yourself to others, remember, when you start comparing yourself to other people, you're comparing yourself to only what they allow you to see. And we cannot always compare ourselves with others ideals. As a matter of fact, sometimes when try to compare yourself to the you that you put on social media, if that's you, think about the people who put themselves out on social media. They're only going to put the very best versions of themselves out there. But then a lot of times after they've placed the very best versions of themselves, or the best pictures, or the best this, or the best that of themselves out on social media, and then they settle into the privacy of their home and the privacy of their lives, they don't always like the person that they see in private. And that is why it's important not to compare yourself with other people. So one of the things that you should not like about yourself is the habit of comparing yourself with other people. Stop doing that, because you're going to always feel inadequate. You're going to always feel not enough. You're going to always feel insecure. You're going to always feel envious. And that is not the root cause. That's not the goal of this game. That is not the goal of the race here. So if that's you, one of the things that you should not like about yourself is the habit of comparing yourself to other people. Look at their successes and qualities when you don't even know what they've done to get those, if they're real successes. Another thing that I want us to not like about ourselves, if we have this, is this whole notion of always feeling insecure, always feeling self-conscious, always feeling anxious about your appearance, about your abilities, about your social interactions, about your job, about how you navigate in life, about how you show up, about how you be, always feeling insecure about everything. No. If that is you, that's one thing that you should not like about yourself. Stop feeling insecure. You should not like feeling insecure. I'm talking about things, if we're going to become better, if we're going to get better, if we're going to develop this better mindset that this is not the end all be all, this is not as good as it gets. No, not in my life. There is a place and a space that's called better. And in order for me to get to better, what does a better me look like? I have to see what things in my life that need to be, what are the things in my life that need to be improved? How do I really make a better me? In order to make a better me, there's some things that I need to get rid of. And I'm not saying that all of us possess all of these characteristics. I'm not saying all of us possess or execute or perform all these habits, but I'm saying there are some things when you do an introspective look at you, there are some things that if you're going to be better, you need to say, there need to be some things that we can stop, some things that we can get rid of. And I'm just talking about stuff that perhaps is holding the wagon down. So again, one of the things we should get rid of is the whole habit of comparing ourselves to other people. Another thing we should get rid of is this whole notion of always feeling insecure. I never feel, I'm always feeling self-conscious. I'm always feeling anxious. I never feel like I belong. Let me just tell you this. You belong in every door. You belong in every room where the door opens and you walk through. You belong in every room where the door opens and you walk through. Stop feeling insecure. I'm not saying you can't feel a little discomfort and a little uncomfortable, but don't feel insecure. Insecure takes you to the part of feeling self-conscious about being there. It makes you feel anxious about being there. Now you start feeling anxious and self-conscious about your abilities, about your qualifications, about your characteristics, about everything. No. Stop doing that. So if that's you, that is one of the things that you should not like about yourself. Stop. Don't like feeling insecure. Some people have normalized feeling insecure. Another thing that you ought not like about yourself, if you possess this quality, this characteristic, is procrastination. Always putting off for tomorrow what you can do today or what you should have done yesterday. If you are a procrastinator, don't like that characteristic about you. And that is one of the things that you should not like. Always putting off your responsibilities. Always putting off your hopes. Always putting off your dreams. Because what does that do? It leads to stress, and it leads to all other kind of negative implications and impacts in your life. Stop procrastinating. If you are procrastinating, you should not like that about yourself. I'm talking about the things that we should not like about ourselves, particularly if we're trying to go to a space and a place that's called better. Don't like being a procrastinator. And some of us know that we're procrastinators because our friends tell us we procrastinate. Our family members tell us that we procrastinate. Our coworkers and colleagues tell us that we procrastinate. But one of the things that that's one of the things that we ought not work about, that we ought not like about ourselves. And I'm just sharing these out of a place of love to say, listen, if we are going to be better, let's know that there's some things that we need to work on. McDiner, thank you for confessing. Thank you for leading by example, showing us that there's some things that we can openly say that, I don't necessarily like that about me. I need to work on it. For some of us, it is the habit of overthinking. If you constantly overthink, you ought not like that about yourself. What does that mean, Color? It means that you spend excessive time analyzing things. You get paralyzed just by analyzing things. You're caught up in it's what we call the paralysis of analysis. You're so busy analyzing, and you're overthinking, and you get paralyzed in that moment, and you can't move forward. That means that you spend excessive time analyzing situations, analyzing people, and worrying about potential problems that probably won't even come into existence. Overthinking. I'm just tossing out these things, you all. And if you're brave enough to confess that that's you, maybe it will help somebody else, because a lot of times we become too ashamed and too embarrassed to look at it and say, you know what, that's me. Out of the 4 things that I've talked about so far, can I tell you that 3 of those really used to be a part of me? Comparing myself to other people, insecurity, and overthinking. I wasn't much of a procrastinator because I would really try to get things done, but really comparing myself to other people, I used to do it. Feeling insecure, I used to do it. Overthinking, I used to do it, and I'm challenged now not to do it. Sometimes we have heightened sensitivity. We take things so personally. We feel overwhelmed all the time by our emotions. Sometimes our sensitivity can be so overwhelming until it is not a good thing. Because everything then becomes about me, I, me, and my. We oversensitize some things. I'm just really trying to help you all because, when I opened this broadcast this evening, I said, if this is your first time catching this show or catching the replay, and you're wondering, what is this guy here to talk about? What is it that he's talking about? And I said, we're talking about things that should inspire and motivate us and then challenge us to be our best selves, even in the worst of situations. Becoming and being your best self in the worst of situations means that sometimes you have to look at yourself and say, how can I become better? In order for me to become better, I have to see some things in my life where there are deficits, things that can be improved. And that's all I'm talking about this evening. But I'm talking about you yourself doing an inventory, not allowing somebody else to strip you and rip you down. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you doing an honest assessment of who you are, where you are, and how you show up in life and how you be. Sometimes we procrastinate. Sometimes we're insecure, and we hold on to all of that stuff. I'm challenging us to get rid of those things. I'm challenging us not to like those things about us. I'm challenging us to say those are areas where I can do better for me, do better about me. Some of us have no confidence at all. We always doubt our abilities. We doubt our talents. We doubt our gifts. We doubt all of that, and we feel hesitant. Hesitant about what? Hesitant about pursuing my goals, hesitant about pursuing my dreams, hesitant about trying something new, hesitant about thinking outside of the box, hesitant about doing something different and And we lack confidence. Sometimes we believe in everybody else's dream but ours. We believe in everybody else's gift but ours. We believe in everybody else's talent except ours. We lack confidence. And if that is some habit that you have, that's one thing that you ought not like about yourself. You should not like the fact that you lack confidence. A little nervous energy from time to time? Absolutely, because nervous energy makes you go back and do what you need to do. Yes, another thing, thank you, Marissa. If you know that you are an unhealthy eater, you ought not like that about yourself. One person said, does eating the right foods count? Yeah. If you know that you habitually do not eat the right food, that means that you're not taking care of your health. You should not like that about yourself. What does that mean, Color? It means that you're putting your health on the back burner all the time. No, you shouldn't do that. Thank you for sharing that, Marissa. That's one that I didn't necessarily have in my thoughts or my minds or my notes, but that's another thing that we ought not necessarily like about ourselves. And here is one. Here is one where I think we can really gain some real inner strength from. If you always find it difficult to say no, you ought not like that about yourself. That means you're a constant people pleaser. You find it difficult to say no. Which means if you find it difficult to say no, you could possibly find it easy to be manipulated. I just thought I'd flip it over so we can see what's really going on here. You should not like that about yourself. Oh my God, I can be easily manipulated. If you always find it difficult to say no, then yes, you can. You're feeling pressured to please everybody, feeling pressured to say yes to everything. You sometimes feel stressed and pressured, struggle to just set boundaries and parameters. You should not like the fact that you find it difficult to say no. No is a complete thought. It is a complete sentence. It is a complete statement. It is a complete vibe all by itself, as the young folk would say. Stop finding it difficult to say no. Be to thine own self, be true. I had a conversation with a coworker and a friend earlier today, and we were talking about how do we navigate some spaces, how do we navigate some circles where it is optional for us to show up. And I said to her, just learn to say no. And I said, to thine own self be true. If you know certain spaces are just not your thing, and certain things you just don't do, learn to say no and don't have difficulty saying no. Be honest and be truthful with you. To thine own self be true. If you find it difficult to say no, that is not something you should like about yourself. I'm talking about a list of things that you ought not like about yourself. And I think that's great, McDonough, that you've learned to say no and to set boundaries. Many of us could learn from that lesson right there. Let me learn how to say no. Let me learn how to set boundaries. Let me learn how not to be a people pleaser. Let me learn how to sometimes put myself first and not put myself last all the time. Which leads me to something else that we should not like about ourselves. We should not like negative talk about ourselves and about other people all the time. You know, it worries me, and I cautiously approach people who always engage in particularly internal and self-criticism. Nothing is ever good enough that they do. They always doubt themselves. They always second guess themselves. They always question themselves. And I want to say, where is your inner core? Where's your strength? Where's your tenacity? Where's your fortitude? Where's your village that can pour all that stuff into you? Because a lot of times self-talk about or negative self-talk will also lead to negative talk about everybody else, because then you project. What you see in yourself, you project on other people. You don't trust yourself, so you don't trust other people. You don't believe in yourself, so you don't believe in other people. You criticize yourself, so you criticize other people. Negative self-talk leads to negative other talk. And I'm just trying to share that with us this evening, because there are some things, again, if we're going to become better, we have to see deficits. Well, where are the areas in my life where I can improve? Next week, we will have completed 6 months in this year. And we're at the place where we need to take an inventory and say, where am I emotionally? Where am I psychologically? Where am I along the maturation, along the growth scale that started in January? Where am I? If this year I'm growing, every day I'm growing and I'm living, where am I along this continuum? Have I grown this year? Have I seen any places, any areas that need improvement, any areas that can be improved? And I'm just saying, let's step back now and say, you know what, we have the rest of this year. And if we're going to be better, by the end of this year than we were at the beginning of the year, and we haven't done anything about it, here's some areas perhaps that we could take a look at. So again, not just the negative self-talk, but the negative talk about me and about other people, period. And then here's something, you all. I used to struggle with this, and I thought it was just a wonderful thing to say, well, you know, I'm such a perfectionist. But can I say this to you? If you struggle with perfectionism, that is something you should not like about yourself. Why? Because what does that suggest, Cutler? It suggests that you're always striving. And then on one hand, we'll say, you know, nobody's perfect. Well, why? And if it is unattainable, why are you striving for something that is unattainable? And if it's unattainable and you know you'll never get there, what are you going to end up doing? You're going to end up feeling frustrated. You're going to end up feeling depleted. You're going to end up feeling uh, uh, um, that you can't accomplish it. You're not worthy. You're not equipped. Insufficient. That is the word I was looking for. You're going to feel insufficient. Oh, I can't do this. I can't achieve this. You're going to feel insufficient. But we often say, I'm a perfectionist. Well, that's not a good thing. When you think about it, that is not a good thing, because that means you are constantly engaging in the habit of trying to reach unattainable goals, unattainable standards. And because you can't reach them, that means you would end up frustrated. Because a lot of times what we mean is I like to do everything the best that I can. That's probably the better way of putting it. I like to always do my best. Stop saying that you're a perfectionist. Just simply say, I like to do my best as often as I can. Don't claim to be a perfectionist. No. Get that word out of your vocabulary. So I want you to stop liking the fact that you are a perfectionist, but love the fact that you strive to do the best you can as often as you can. And then here's something that you all, and I'll get out of the way, but these are areas in our lives that we should not like. These are habits that we might have that we should not like. These are areas where we can always improve. And that's what I'm talking about this evening. Areas where we can always improve, but we will not strive to improve them until we confess that we have them. I need to say that again. We will not strive to improve upon them until we are strong enough to confess that we have them. And here is another area that you should not necessarily like about yourself. Some people have difficulty forming and maintaining relationships. You shouldn't like that about yourself. Always feeling disconnected. Always feeling withdrawn. Always feeling alone. Always feeling lonely. When I say that there are several of these that I can relate to because once upon a time they were me, this is one of them. Feeling isolated, feeling abandoned, feeling alone, feeling lonely, feeling withdrawn, feeling disconnected. Yes, that was me. And people who get to meet me say, oh, I just cannot believe that was you. Yes, that was me. And I didn't like it. I did not like that about me. And I thought, you know what, here for me is an area where I can improve. And so I'm talking about some of these y'all from a very personal place, from a very private place inside of the core, the soul of who I am. And so that is why I know that you can take a look at these things and say, this is not going to be me. Not always, this is not going to be me. I'm not always going to feel disconnected from other people. I'm not always going to struggle in social gatherings when it comes to social interactions. And so I just thought I'd toss these out there to us this evening because I want to say, and maybe you have some that I didn't even cover. And as you go back, as you catch this replay, if there's some areas where you think that people should not like about themselves, if you think there's some habits that people should not like about themselves, drop those in the comments, because I want the people who catch this replay to say, yep, here's an area where I can improve. Oh, here's something that I need to do. Oh, you know what? I hadn't thought about that, but yes, that is something that I do. That is a characteristic that I have. There's a character flaw that I've come to adjust to, that I've come to like. Now, I want us to, from a very practical perspective, see areas of improvement. I want us to see those areas of improvement, because as we're marching on throughout this year, I want us to have a firm goal about how do I become a better person? How do I become more successful, more victorious? How do I become wiser? How do I thrive more? How do I show up better, stronger, faster? How do I do all that? How do I see something different about me? Something different from where I am, something different from what I even dreamed for me. One of the things we can do is do an inventory and say, that is what I'm going to work on. You all, thank you so much for allowing me to come into whatever space you've allowed me to come into. I really appreciate it. I'm so thankful that we've had this candid conversation. I hope that you share this conversation with other people in your village, in your circle, in your community. And until the next time we talk, tell them, come on, let's talk to color, because the man is just trying to offer us some things to help save our lives. And I really am. I really am. I think the next time we chat, I might talk about the power of friendship, because when I talk about the village and the community and all of those things, as I continue to count my blessings, I am most thankful for the people who are in my life. So I might talk about that the next time we get together. All right, let's keep doing what we do, y'all. Let's keep maintaining connectivity. Let's keep building. Let's keep striving to build community, maintain connectivity. Keep your heads up, keep your hopes up, and know this, that from my heart to yours, there is and always will be so much love. So until the next time I see you, go and tell somebody else, come on and let's talk to Cutler. Good night, everybody.